Hey, this is Yardley from the Talking About Walkers podcast, and I am here to give just some quick thoughts on what I felt about the first half of season 5, or shall we call it season 5A. We have an additional 8 episodes coming on February the 8th, and a lot of the Walking Dead community seem to be pretty fired up to see where this cast of characters that we have grown very fond of over previous seasons, where this new path that they're going to undergo will take them. For the most part of these first 8 episodes, I would have to say that I probably enjoyed 4 of the 8. None of them were absolute garbage, but I thought that there were 4 episodes of this season that were average or a little bit below average. And if I rank an episode below average, it's only because I didn't necessarily felt like I personally got much out of it. Um, my favorite episodes of this season were No Sanctuary, Strangers, Four Walls and a Roof, and of course the mid-season finale, which was Coda, which ended in the demise of Beth Green. Which over the last couple of seasons, that kind of seems like, that's the mid-season finale thing. Let's get rid of a Green, but there's only one Green left, and we'll see if she makes it through the rest of the season. No Sanctuary was a solid episode. That was the episode where in which Carol set off the chain of events that led to Rick and the rest of the people who were trapped in the train car being rescued and escaping. Strangers was, of course, the episode where Bob was abducted, and of course, it was also the episode where we were introduced to Father Gabriel. Another character that's scared shitless and doesn't necessarily understand the zombie apocalypse, even a couple of years into it. That's getting kind of strange that there are actually people who are still out there who don't necessarily understand how to take care of themselves or really haven't come to grips that this is the world that they live in. I mean, if you've been surviving for over a year in this world, I think that you should have a grasp over the dangers and have the ability to protect yourself and or people who would be around you. So I kind of think them going back to that well, the same way that they did with characters like Tara and Lily back in the standalone governor episodes, they kind of went back to that well, and I don't really like the idea of people being ignorant of the situation at this stage in the zombie apocalypse. But Father Gabriel, he is what he is. We'll see if he snaps out of that demeanor in the second half of the season. Of course, Four Walls and a Roof was basically the episode where they closed the book on the termites, Gareth and crew, and the remaining people, at least of what we saw of Terminus. The book was officially closed on that so-called bad guy. If you want to call Gareth a bad guy, I don't know if I would necessarily classify him as a bad guy. There might be some things, at least in the way that we live now. Cannibalism is never a good thing. And it's not necessarily something that's a necessary thing here in Georgia. There's plenty of wild animals and vegetation in this state for you to not necessarily have to go to the well of eating people. I mean, there's plenty of fish, you know, there's plenty of game, and I don't think that you spending time eating people, even though it's probably an easier way to do it if you get people that happen upon your facility, which was Terminus. So I don't know how awesome that aspect of it was. I think maybe a few more years into the zombie apocalypse, if there are people who are totally inept at, fishing and, getting deer and things like that, I just don't know if those people would necessarily exist. Maybe if you're a person who's you just totally suck and you're lazy, you might want to go there. But I'm happy that they closed the chapter. I thought that that was solid. They didn't stick around. They didn't have a villain that was around too long. They pretty much just did what they had to do, showed that aspect of the world, and moved on. I thought that that was solid. Uh, the 4 episodes that I didn't really like that much were Slab Town, Self Help, Consumed, and Crossed. Of course, Slab Town was the episode where we found out what happened to baby girl Beth Green. Uh, One of the things that I thought that Slabtown lacked was them actually making more of a focus on developing the relationship between Noah and Beth. I think had they done that better in Slabtown, I think that her reaction to Noah having to basically stay at the hospital so that she could leave, I thought that her crying and hugging him goodbye in that moment would have had a little bit more emotion to it had they spent a little bit more time in Slaptown of maybe just having a few more scenes of them just sitting down talking and talking about the way things used to be, talk about their transition from the old world into the new, have them kind of have some type of a connection that would have paid off in a better way by the time we got Dakota and all hell broke loose at the very end of the episode. I just didn't find out enough to make it believable for me that Beth would be that emotional about Noah, because the emotion that she was showing would lead you to believe that they had a little bit more of a closer relationship than what we were actually shown on the show. So that's one of the reasons why I gave Slabtown a thumbs down. And also the pacing was horrendous. Self Help. This was the episode that had Abraham, Eugene, Rosita, Tara, Glenn, and Maggie. This was, of course, the episode where Eugene reveals that he was full of you know what, and all of the stuff from DC was a lie. He was using it as a ruse so people could protect him. That episode for me, they tried to delve more into Abraham's character. And I don't think that they really did a good job of explaining why Abraham was doing the things that he was doing and why it upset his family so to the point where they would have left him and put their lives in danger. I can understand being scared, but they should have shown the events that led up to Abraham flipping out and doing those things that he did to those men. Also, that would have kind of led into what would make a young lady with two children say we'll be safer by leaving a strong man like Abraham. There had to have been more that they could have shown to have led up to them saying, you know what, I think it's better to be out there to being with this crazy motherfucker. I don't think that they did a good job of that, really. And I don't really feel like at this point I even care about Eugene's backstory. I mean, like, I know enough about that dude. But a young lady like Rosita, I think it would be interesting to get more into her head. I also think that it would be interesting to get more in the head of a character like Tara. Because even though we were introduced to her last season, most of the storyline revolved around her sister, Lily. I'd like to know more about her because it's almost like, we found out that she was a lesbian, but that was it. Like, she doesn't really have anything to do now because everybody else in the group uh, can't identify her with her on that level. Not even really meaning like some type of sexual thing, but how much does Tara have in common with the people that she is around? I think that they were trying to show that she had a little bit of a connection with Eugene because there were probably some similarities and parallels between Eugene and herself. Maybe that's why she that she kind of moved that direction towards consoling and comforting him and letting him know that everybody has a part to play. But I'd like to know a little bit more about her. I want to know more about characters like Sasha. Sasha's been around for a while, and you know, Carol was a cardboard cutout. Then all of a sudden, they gave her something to do this season, and by building up Carol 5 friggin' seasons in, where to the point where she's pretty much peaked, there really isn't anywhere else for her to go but down. And by having all of these other characters who are still around from season one and season two, I think that they're trying to find things to do for the people who are the most familiar. And I think that other characters who could totally be interesting are going to suffer. Characters like Sasha. I don't even want to talk about Therese. They've moistened and totally destroyed his character. even if people want to say, well, this Tyrese isn't the same as the comic book Tyrese, you didn't have to moisten this guy up and just make him just cringeworthy to a lot of people. And a lot of people do feel this way, man. Like, I see Tyrese, he was one of the characters that I've been the most excited to come on the show. And now when he comes into the screen, I just cringe. I don't even want to look at him. It's like reading a Song of Ice and Fire and then you get to a Brand chapter. You're like, God damn, I don't want to read this shit. But, I'll move on from that shit. Um, I would have to say that an episode like Cross, the Daryl and Carol episode, I thought those episodes were, I thought it was okay, but I didn't really get any information or really anybody. Like, there was no new information. It was just, they were showing us flashbacks of things that we already knew about just from different angles. Uh, there wasn't nothing that I just thought was awesome about the episode at all. I thought that the episode probably could have been potentially a little bit better had they split the episode up with it being Daryl and Carol doing their things and they could have done the little flashbacks or whatever. But I think that they should have maybe shown how Noah managed to survive getting from the hospital to that building, which ended up having him link up with Daryl and Carol. I would have liked to have seen his journey. Maybe during his journey to ending up in the same place with Daryl and Carol, maybe he could have gotten some flashbacks and we could have saw his father or his family or something like that. Who's to say that they couldn't possibly do that in the second half of the season? But I thought that that probably should have been an episode that could have had a little bit more Noah and his journey to that place and Daryl and Carol. And we all know that there was stuff in that episode like the phantom flipping van and all of those types of things that made that show kind of like, really, is that what you're really doing? But I wasn't really that caught up in that episode, so I probably would give that one a thumbs down as well. And if Crossed, I can't really diss Cross too much because that was essentially the setup episode which led into the episode of Coda. I thought that there were definitely some decisions that were made in Cross that probably could have been made differently amongst the characters. But for all of the people who were saying that, Tyrese and Daryl's plan, it was Tyrese and Daryl's plan. Tyrese came up with the plan. Daryl heard it. He co-signed it, which means Daryl is the co-author of that movie right there. So Daryl and Tyrese's plan, of course, it went wrong, so to speak. Whatever Rick's plan was, that wasn't a foolproof plan either. And the way that this episode was set up, no matter whose plan that they chose, something was going to have to go wrong for Beth to die in that final episode anyway. So even if they would have chosen Rick's plan, his plan would have been funky. Beth was going to end up dying in that episode regardless. So whichever way that they took, no matter what type of debate that we have, I think we all have to understand that whatever decision was made, Beth was going to end up dead anyway. Coda. The Beth decision, what she did, I don't think that was necessarily executed well. The actual death, I'm totally fine with Beth being killed off. I just don't think that it was executed well. You don't accidentally pull your gun out and shoot somebody through their chin and then sit around and going, oh, I didn't mean to do it. I just think that was so ridiculous. I think that Beth's motivations and how it played out on screen weren't really clear. I just really think that was a stupid action that Beth did. She essentially put everybody else in danger by stabbing Don, because there very easily could have been a shootout in that hallway, which would have resulted in the deaths of a lot of the people who came to save her to begin with. And she would have been dead regardless, to even grieve the deaths of the people who put their necks on the line to come and save her. I'm going to kind of wrap it up there. I enjoyed 4 of the 8. I really hope that the next half of this season is a lot more solid. I really hope so. I hope that there are more ups than downs, more highs than lows. I think that everybody that's a Walking Dead fan probably thinks the same thing. I think that people want to really enjoy it, and I want to boom, at the end of the season. I want to thump something, just thump you in the chest. Doesn't necessarily have a big death, but we need one or two big deaths next season as well because they're going to have another opportunity to bring in more characters, and I'm just really kind of fed up with Daryl and Carol and Glenn and Maggie, like all of this dead weight from two earlier in the seasons. I mean, Michonne has been a cardboard cutout. Never in a million years would you have told me that Michonne would have been more of a cardboard cutout than Carol. More of a cardboard cutout than, Tyrese or anybody else that they've kind of dropped the ball on bringing into the show. Uh, let's hope we get more of her character and more understanding of characters that we haven't seen previously. Uh, I got my fingers crossed, people. Hopefully, they'll be able to do something that's awesome, and I totally look forward to seeing what they have in store. So, leave your comments, questions, comments, observations. Tell us of the 8 episodes. What were your top four? What were your bottom four? The ones that you weren't as excited about this season. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/talking about walkers, and contribute and get in the conversation there. We have a Talking About Walkers Facebook group as well. As always, you can listen to us live on Sunday nights for our Talking About Walkers pre-show, which is on indieradio.org, and you can always go to indieshowcase.org and check out all of our other shows and see all of the guests and actors, directors, writers, producers that we've had on a lot of our other shows. And of course, you can join us at our regularly scheduled time of 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 hour after episode airs, for our Walking Dead live show. We encourage participation and we encourage callers. Call in and let us know what you thought about the episode that came on that night. You can always give us a call live on that night at 347-857-3385, or you can leave us a voicemail that we will address on the next show at 323-596-7469. And, holla at your boys. It's always cool. We consider ourselves a Walking Dead support group on the night of the show. Feel free to give us a call and kind of chop it up with us, man. We get callers. There's always more fun when there's participation from the callers. And don't forget, give us a rating and review on iTunes. It helps to keep us relevant in the iTunes rankings. It kind of pushes us up to the top or closer to the top the more ratings that we get, even though it's kind of weird how things run on iTunes as far as ratings go. There are podcasts that haven't been on for years that are still higher up in the rankings. So I don't know how the hell that works, but we can always appreciate an iTunes review. And let us know what you look forward to the most coming up in the second half of the season. And, even if you want to kind of draw your line a little bit past this season into next season, tell us what you'd like to see. But something that we definitely want to know, who do you think needs to go so that somebody else can shine? And do you guys think that they're going to have the nuts to drop another two of the people who've been around since season 1 and season 2? I really think that they need to do that for the show to grow. So holler at your boys. This is Yardley from Talking About Walkers. See you guys on February the 8th. And you know what? I might drop another video before this thing is over. This is something new and it's actually kind of fun. And hey, Godspeed 2015. Let's hope that everybody has a blessed year. Let's hope that somebody blesses this show to kick it up, to a level that, it's not at yet. This show has a lot of potential. And we all enjoy the show. So I think that we probably can all be in agreement that if there's something good that you like, hey, why not make it better? It's healthy. So, hey, Godspeed 2015. Everybody be safe. And we'll see you guys soon.